Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, lovely people, depending on where you're watching us from in this
Mm.
beautiful world. It is absolutely raining here in Sydney. And Soreya, you are coming in from Auckland. What's
I
the weather
am.
like there? I
It
hope your weather is
is
better.
overcast, but lovely, sunny, warm. And I'm currently in my car, and it's lovely and warm inside my beautiful car. So yeah, apologies for tuning in from here, but I'm literally in between meetings and was really looking forward to tuning in with you all.
I'm so glad we caught you. We've been trying to do this for a few weeks now, so I'm
Yeah,
really, really looking forward to our conversation today. Even though you're in the car, I'm happy that you're here.
yeah.
And we actually connected via the wonderful platform I've mentioned many, many times before, which is Match, and it is
Mm.
really beautiful. I do want to give Alex a bit of a shout out here. He's the founder of Match, and it's a wonderful platform where you can literally put out the topics that you are about, that you want to talk about, or interview people about. So I'm on there as a host as well as a guest, and I found you through that because you reached out to me and were like, Unsilenced grief is exactly
Yes,
what I want to be talking about. So without
yes.
further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Soreya, and maybe you can start with a quick introduction to our audience, please. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
being here.
thanks, Marie. So yeah, hi everybody. So I am a Kiwi in the land of Down Under. Um, I I've come on this particular podcast because grief is such a beautiful and painful uh, topic or expression of the human psyche, and I've been working with in this field of somatics, trauma therapy, dance therapy for 30 something years. Solo mama of a beautiful 21-year-old. So flow on the nest. I'm a free spirit. And that beautiful place in my life where I'm going through, the transition of womanhood and just really loving my life and loving the sense of ease that this time is bringing and wanting to share more of myself now that I've got more capacity to do so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've
You
had a very
say you've got a
colorful life.
21-year-old daughter or son?
Son.
Son.
Yeah.
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 I'm a mom of two sons here, so yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Mine are 17 and 15, so not quite ready to
Not
fly
quite
the
ready to
nest,
fly the
but
coop.
soon. Who knows?
Yes.
Who
Yes.
knows?
Exactly.
Soraya, I love everything that you do and are about and stand for. And actually, even just before going live here, I did some somatic workout because it's just such a beautiful way. And I'm a very big believer that when you are going through grief, there always needs to be an element of physical release, exercise, yoga,
Mm.
um, breath work, massages, whatever works for you. I think there's so much to choose from, but it also is really important that you find the thing that really works for you, that helps you release the pain. So I am going to start with your story actually before we go further into that, because I always feel that it's such a beautiful way of people to know where you actually came from and where
Mm.
you went with that, because um, all these journeys are such individual paths. And when we meet together on the path, I always find it quite important and beautiful when we hold space for each other and hold space for each other's stories. So I'm going to hand that back to you to share
Yeah.
that, please.
Thanks, Marie. I suppose the arc of my life has been definitely moving through the darkness and light, like many of us. My journey began when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in terms of diving into what I now know to be somatic work. It didn't have
Mm-hmm.
that title on it back then,
Mm-hmm.
but we were smashing mattresses and doing breath work and partner work and mirror work and eye gazing and all the things. So it's a long time ago. It's 30 something years ago. And I just remember during that particular body of work, it was called the turning point, going, this is what I want to do. Like this is beyond counseling, this is beyond psychotherapy, this is what I knew of anyway. And so everything that's kind of challenged me in my life, like the loss of my brother, 10 coming up 10 years next week actually, so it's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting time,
Wow,
watching the
yeah.
body, watching the response
Mm-hmm.
of the body,
Mm-hmm.
um, and all of the relationship stuff and the parenting stuff and all of the pieces that life brings us. I've been able to draw upon those teachings and further my my area of expertise and my area of desire and how I want to work with myself and with others. So yeah, I've had a really, really colorful life, like a real life of adventure. I've had a few near-death experiences, which you know, is an interesting lens to sort of observe. And
what was your first experience with loss, with grief, if I may ask? You said your journey started with 19. Why
yeah,
19? What
you
happened
know,
at that age?
so my first experience of grief was probably, well, the loss of a pet was a big one, but at 19, it was the loss of a relationship. It was an abusive relationship, and so it was the grief that sort of sits around not being in that relationship anymore, not feeling like you're good enough, feeling like you've lost, you know, a big part of your life when you've been with someone for several years. And that was probably the first true sort of mature adulting experience of deep grief, like that heartbreak that just lasts for what seems like forever. And a recognition of what it was, you know, understanding it.
Yeah. And I understand more than anyone here, because that's the topic I've been working with for so long now, that there's such a difference, and yet there are such similarities as well when it comes to grief through losing a relationship or grief through actually losing a person to death. Can you, from your own experience, share a little bit about that, how you, for yourself, for your own journey, went through the loss of the relationship and then the loss of your brother?
Yeah, I've experienced it similarly in my physical body. So there's a physical response that the body naturally goes through, you know, where the pericardium around the heart is contracted and tight, and you actually feel that physical breaking, that the ache in the body and the pain of that. But obviously there's a different scale around the emotional side of things, like brother, sibling, blood, having to watch a very slow death with my brother versus a relationship loss, like walking on my ex-husband in bed with a younger woman was more like a shock, traumatic reaction in the body, and then the grief that unravels from that. So I feel like in the physical body it's similar, the reaction of the physical body, but the emotionality and the mental responses based on the depth of that relationship, the connection of that relationship, or whatever it is too, is the differing piece. But the body responds really similarly.
When you say with your husband, that was not when you were 19, or were you married that early?
No, that was
a different...
later in my 20s, different relationship.
So
I've had a few relationships.
The loss. And no, of course. I mean, most of us do. That's not. There's no judgment whatsoever.
Yeah, no, you know,
I'm just trying to get the timeline and the actual events. That's what I would like to get to. So you had your first deep loss when you were 19 to the relationship. Your brother, you said, was about 10 years ago. Your husband, where did that fit into the timeline?
That was when I was 28, 29.
So it was in between those two.
Yeah. And significant losses in between too, with, you know, different partners, relationships, even, you know, my son moving out of house, that empty nesting, the grief of letting go of this little person you've raised, and not knowing kind of where your place in life, you know, that's a definite grieving process too, that I've just recently gone through.
I can really understand that, because I am getting glimpses of that now with my older son, because he's been in a relationship for over a year and I see less and less of him. So for me, it's that gradual, like I feel it's a little bit gentler, but I do. There are a lot of emotional hurdles to jump through when you want them to be independent, and then anyway, I'm not, for my son's sake, I'm not going to go into detail with that. But wow, absolutely. So when you look back at your life now, and you said in your physical body you experienced the loss quite similarly, what was the hardest one to get through, that took you the longest to work through, and why?
I would probably say the relationship with my ex-husband, because it was such a deep trauma, and the grief just stuck with me for years and years and years. And then it played out in almost every relationship where there was the lack of trust, lack of wanting to get close, the trauma from that. And noticing the grief of wanting that and not being able to, step towards it. And that grief is still so subtle as well. But the difference now is, like, I'm aware of it and I can observe it. So, I think the depth of the trauma and the connection you have with that person is almost equivalent to the depth of your grief. Like, I love one of the quotes, I don't know where it came from, but the deeper you love, the deeper you grieve. And so that's how you can almost quantify, how much did I really love?
Yeah.
I mean, the loss of my brother, we weren't so close. So, he lived in another country, and we just weren't siblings that were close. So even though it was incredibly painful, it wasn't anywhere as deep as losing my husband after, spending 4 years in that relationship, building that relationship with him, and finding out there was another woman involved. So it wasn't like a death of a physical person, but it was the death of what I'd known. And but like I say, the body responds in the same way. It doesn't know the difference.
I heard something literally last week, and it has been sitting with me ever since because it rings so true to me. I'm going to share this with you. And it was a guy on a video. I unfortunately don't remember his name. I would love to quote him here. But what he said was that the trauma is never with what happened to you, the betrayal, the punch, the loss, the divorce, you name it. The trauma is not what happens to you. It is what doesn't happen afterwards, or what didn't happen afterwards. And I thought, wow, this is a completely new, I can't even say new angle, but it was really like, I've never thought about it from that angle. Yeah, it is a completely new angle, but I've never thought about it from that perspective. And I thought that really rings true to me. It's in particular with grief, when you think about it, the way that society responds to it is mostly, I find, very unhealthy. There's the expectation of you falling apart. There's the expectation that it will now last forever. There is the very unuseful, unhelpful sentences like "my condolences" or "I'm sorry for your loss," that can leave you feeling very, very empty when you hear it hundreds of times in a row at a funeral, whatever. There is really debilitating, not very helpful language around grief, where I feel we can do a lot of work on that. And so when you think of that, how society actually handles it, not in a very healthy way. And when you then think of people like you and I that offer help in that space, that offer release in that space, that offer holding space for you to be able to have your grief witnessed and give you tools to actually release it from your body, then there is this decision-making moment or time frame where you can actually choose, do you want that to be in your body, that trauma, or do you want to release it? The body keeps the score, right? So we all know that. So talk to us a little bit about, if I come to you in my deepest grief, what is the first thing that you do in terms of assessment, or what can you share a little bit about, so people can have an understanding of what happens when they get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's really important that someone is given a voice, because often around grief, people can't really speak what they need to say to their family, to their friends. You know, they're holding so much, and a lot of people are trying to hold it together. A lot of people are trying to be strong because of the narrative. Oh, you know, just be strong, you'll get through this. And so there's this facade or a veil that gets put over. So, you know, the first thing is like, here's a safe space for you to offload. What are the things you haven't been able to say, can't say, wouldn't say, shouldn't say, to the deceased or to the one that you've lost, and also to, you know, within the container of people involved in this loss. So there's that piece. And then where I go with it is I invite the person into a space of silence, which is really uncomfortable for a lot of people, but just to give them an opportunity to feel what's underneath all of the busyness and the layers that we place, you know, because it's kind of layers and layers, keeping busy, distracted, or whatever it might be, to stop ourselves from feeling. So I bring people into silence for some time and allow the body to naturally begin to open to release. And you know, the physiological response to grief is always or often coming into closed chest, arms around, you know, eyes down. So I create a physiological shift as well by bringing their heart open and allowing for this the physiological
I can
shift
feel
happen.
that when you just talk about it.
Yeah, so it's like bringing,
Yeah.
and this is a part of the yoga therapy, and then using the breath and the silence and that movement to actually shift the grief out of the cellular body. Because the truth has been for me, is when you sit in silence, you can shift grief within 7 days if you just allow yourself to sit with it and not distract, not find things to stop you from feeling the intensity of it. And then you naturally come into a place
super
of
powerful. Sorry.
No, I was just going to finish with, you know, underneath all of the grief and all of the different parts of it is the joy and the you know, the acceptance and the connection with that person that you've experienced the loss with. So something, you know, really neurologically and physiologically changes. Yeah.
I feel you're the right person to discuss this with, and I would like to put something on the table and see what you think about it, because what you just said, I find it fascinating, and I totally believe that. I know this to be true, that you can shift grief a lot faster than most people would ever imagine. However, there is this, again, rather common belief in society that people stick to this: you have to go through it. There's no way around it. You can't walk away from it. Da 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 da. Of course you can't walk away from it. I totally get it. So what I did was I took the boys after Rob died and flew around the world with them for 2 months. And I still believe it was the best decision I could have ever made, because my intention was not to get away from the grief. My intention was to get away from all the first milestones to come without their dad and the onlookers of how they're going to deal with that. I wanted to be away from that, the expectation, the onlookers, the judgment, the whatever. And I felt that dealing with our grief was so much easier sitting in a pool in our overwater bungalow in the Maldives and looking out into the vastness of this beauty of the land than sitting at home and feeling the absence of Rob more than anywhere. And I don't feel like I was running away from anything. And even if I was, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because, as we all know, you can't ever outrun it.
No.
So the thing that I would like to chat to you about is, when we have physical pain, we cut ourselves, we break a leg, whatever, the first thing that people do is you put a Band-Aid on to stop the bleeding, or you stabilize the leg because it's broken. You know, you do an x-ray, you give them a painkiller. And I'm not talking about medication. I want to make this very clear. I'm not talking about medicating the grief away or antidepressants or anything like that. Absolutely not. That's not the topic. But what I'm saying is, when there's physical pain, people come to the rescue ASAP. Let's help with that pain. With emotional pain, it's the polar opposite. They're like, you have to go through it, you have to feel it, you have to do it now. And says who? So
Yeah.
I love the fact that we can shift it so quickly. And
Yeah.
I love what you're saying, the sitting with it. I'm absolutely for it. But I'd like to hear your opinion on those vast differences between how we treat physical pain and how we treat emotional pain.
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously sometimes it comes together and sometimes it comes separately.
Yeah.
With emotional pain, we're so conditioned to go into avoidance strategies. It's like it's okay to feel happy, it's okay to feel joyful, it's okay to feel bliss, but any of those, what people call bad emotion or dark emotion, the grief, the sadness, the whatever. We are so conditioned to avoid that when I'm working with someone or with myself, I welcome every emotion as energy, as an experience, as something to be curious about. So it's like, I woke this morning and I felt heavy and I was like, oh, this is interesting. So I'm scanning the body. There's a heaviness here. What can I do to shift that? Just observe it, love it, find your compassion for it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what a lot of humanity is lacking. It's like they can be with someone with a broken leg and be like, okay, it is what it is. We put a bandage on it, whatever.
Yeah.
But if somebody's screaming on the sidewalk because, something's happened, society have lost their sense of compassion and their ability to know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So we really do have to start becoming even more sovereign and understanding how we work with our own emotion and not labeling it as good or bad. It's like
I absolutely agree.
is what it is, like that old cliche. It is what it is, and it's energy moving through the body and trying to get our attention. So if we continue to avoid or distract, it's going to keep nagging at us like a little child trying to get our attention. So then this is why people are becoming more and more anxious and more depressed. And, all of the layers of mental neuroses are getting stronger and stronger because we've become such a busy society or busy human race. We don't actually stop to feel. So then it's layering and layering and layering. And then we're being given medication to dumb it down, and it's a mess. So it's sitting with our emotion and just being, oh, okay, this is an interesting feeling or energy moving through my body, letting the tears come, letting the laughter come, letting the heat come, and letting it move through.
I love what you say there. I want to acknowledge that some people listening to this might think right now, but this is super scary, sitting with emotion. And that's why we are having conversations like these. And that's why there are people like you out there, Soreya, who offer help and different tools and modalities to help you through this. So I really want to urge you, if you're listening to this right now and you have this thought pop up, this is really scary, to reach out to people like Soreya. We will definitely be sharing a few links in the show notes after this, because the video is live, so I can't ever put the show notes in while we go live with YouTube. But when you come back, you will find all the links, how to connect with Soreya, because I find it so important that you do find that person that can sit with you and hold space for you in this. If this journey is too scary, too painful, too daunting for you, then please do reach out. And my thing is always, you will know when you speak to a person if you feel that connection, if you feel held, and please trust that. I've had way too many people come across the work that I do and then say, oh, I did like 10 years of therapy, but I never felt it was like 10 years of therapy and you never felt it was the right person. Why did you do that? You have to feel that connection. And I just really want to encourage you to try a few different things. So, Soreya, can you give us a bit of a wrap up for some of the modalities that you offer, so people get a bit of a taste tester for what you do?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for people to know is that I don't offer talk therapy. I mean, there are definitely, there's definitely conversation that happens, but the majority of my work is working somatically with the body, working with the cellular body. So actually getting into the very core wounding or core trauma or core cells underneath all of the layers. We do that through breath work, through various forms of meditation, but we're not just talking about sitting in silence meditation. There are over 8,000 meditations in the library of teachings that I have within the yoga therapy philosophy that are very specific to physical, mental illness. I also work with psilocybin assisted therapy, which is
I have never heard about that. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, so working with they're magic mushrooms, but psilocybin.
Oh, of course. I don't know why I didn't get
I
that
was going to say,
instantly.
surely
Sorry,
you've heard
thank
of
you.
that.
Absolutely.
Psychedelic
Yeah,
assisted
okay.
therapy.
That word I know. I haven't heard the other one before. Okay.
Yeah, specifically psilocybin, which is a
Yeah.
very, very beautiful and powerful medicine. And really, as a therapist, I'm sitting there and just holding space and observing, you know. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing this work for well over 20 years now. So I meet everybody freshly where they're at and prescribe something very bespoke for them. It's not cookie cutter. I work with, everyone across the board. I've mental, physical, emotional, all the things, all the pieces. But grief for me is one of those areas that I love to work with because it sits so deep in the psyche. And once we can sort of release that or lighten the load a bit, it's like the rest of our life starts to feel sweeter, you know?
There's always a ripple effect. Beautiful.
Yeah. I love my work.
Can you talk a little bit on generational trauma? It's one of my favorite topics, and I know that you're very big on that as well. Can you share a little bit for people who've never had anything to do with it?
Yeah,
it's so often an eye opener when we talk about it.
Yeah, and you know, so often to describe it briefly, to help it land is that, and I don't know this to be absolutely true other than the work that I've done. We are in our DNA and in our cellular body, we have supposedly 7 generations that come before us and after us. And so, you know, we're carrying the genetic coding of our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, our great-greats, and then 7 generations forward. So often I'll say to my clients, if you don't do this work for yourself, do it for your children or your grandchildren, because we're carrying the patterns of behavior of all of these generations. And I had a conversation with my son one day when he was struggling with something, and I said, darling, you got to think about all of the patterns and conditioning and constructs in our family. You know, there's addiction, there's abuse, there's all sorts of things running through all of our generations. You know, and it's not everything is yours. So when you're working with generational trauma, you're working with what's present, but you're also clearing lifetimes backwards, but most importantly forwards, so that your children don't carry, you know, these very, very heavy not so much traumas, but patterns. It's more the patterns that are set up through the subconscious mind that are carried through the DNA. So it's important to do the work.
100%. It's I had a really fascinating epiphany around that when I read the book. It Didn't Start With You. It's such an incredible book on epigenetics, where it explains that in a lot of detail as well. But you've done it so nicely for us now. I do know that. No, I don't know. I believe that you've written a book as well. Is that correct, or am I on the wrong path here? Share a little bit about that, please.
So I started writing this book about 7 months ago when I was in Thailand. It was like this big download. It's called Metamorphosis. So it's like a story of the woman that comes out of parenting and what all that held into her, you know, middle-aged years and in through those perimenopausal, menopausal years, and everything that holds. So it's kind of like an arc of a decade. And then it weaves in playlists with music that helps support shifting, you know, the different expressions that the words that are written might bring up. So it's like a transmission. It's also got meditations and breath work, and it's just like this big loaded online. It's an online audio experience. So it's
awesome. I just wanted to ask, that must be an audiobook. How is that possible?
Yeah, it's audio because it's got so much involved in it. Yeah. It was a really cool thing to do, is write a book.
I love it. Soreya, we've covered a lot. And there's always, like, every time when we come to the half an hour, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much more. So for that so much more, what would you like, if you could leave people with one wrap up, what is the main message that you would like for people to get away from this?
I'd probably say that even though grief and our dense emotion may feel really scary for many, and it may feel like something that is unable to be faced, remembering that there's people like you and I out there that have gone through the fire and come out the other side so much lighter and brighter, and fully equipped to be able to support those that need it. And sometimes it's just a matter of taking that first step to reach out, to have a conversation, or, you know, let somebody take your hand to know that there is a possible way through. Because grief is so gripping that can literally take someone into addiction or overdose, you know, like all sorts of really dark places. So to know that there are people out here that have been through, come out the other side, and can tell the story and then support others, you know, just take that first step.
I love that. Because you don't have to see past the first step yet, you know, just take the first step. I really love that. It's such a powerful, simple and beautiful message. I really want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for being here. And as I said before, anyone who wants to connect with Soreya, please come back and have a look at the show notes. We'll be sharing the links how you can get in touch with her. Soreya, I'm really, really grateful that we finally got to connect.
Me too, even though it's in the car.
It's all right.
I haven't got the pretty background, but, you know, sometimes it's pretty.
So distracted by everything you say, we didn't even look at your background. It doesn't matter. Thank you for being here, everyone. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, because we go live every week at the same time. I'm sending you so much love. This is Soreya and Marie signing off. Bye for now.
Thanks for having me.